Michael, get off the computer. You've been on there for hours.
Go away, Mom. Not the breaker. If you have someone in your life turning off the breaker to your gaming rig or workstation, do I have the fix for you. Welcome back to Tectonic Systems, and today we're going to be talking about a component that I very rarely, if ever, see other tech or PC building channels talk about, even though it's an almost necessary part of any build. While it isn't necessary for any build to be fully functioning, this component plays a role that's so vitally important that it can't be overlooked. This component is called an uninterruptible power supply, and it's going to protect your computer from any power problems it may experience, including no power. Uninterruptible power supplies can also be called an UPS or a UPS. At its core, an uninterruptible power supply is a fancy surge protector with extra features. One of the main differences between a surge protector and an uninterruptible power supply is the fact that the UPS has a battery backup. The battery in the UPS will charge whenever the UPS is plugged into an outlet that's supplying power. As the UPS draws power from the outlet, it's going to analyze it and make sure that it's 120 volts AC and 60 hertz. When incoming power deviates from 120 volts and 60 hertz, it can cause issues with the power supply in your computer. When your power supply is dealing with dirty power, it's going to fail to deliver clean power to the rest of your components, which can result in your computer restarting or completely shutting off. During this time, hardware components can be damaged and files can be corrupted, which can result in your OS not launching and the loss of important data, not to mention the cost of replacing those hardware components. This is where the uninterruptible power supply comes in. If it detects any dirty power at all, it's going to immediately kick over to battery backup power and provide your computer with uninterruptible clean power. This process is going to protect all of your hardware components from damage as well as your files from being corrupted. You might be thinking, well, don't most modern power supplies have protection features built in? While the answer is yes, these features are not guaranteed in severe power surges or other prolonged power problems. They also aren't designed to operate through those problems, and they're definitely not designed to operate with no power at all. When you're looking to buy an uninterruptible power supply, there's a couple things that are really important to look for. The first important thing to look for in an UPS is going to be its wattage capability. The wattage capability of an UPS is going to tell you how many watts it can provide to your system during backup battery power. Keep in mind, you will need to power one monitor on the battery backup as well as your computer. That way you can still see what you're doing to shut your computer down. To choose a power supply wattage effectively, you don't need to use your power supply's max wattage capability. You can use the wattage that your computer normally uses during its tasks, such as gaming or work. For instance, you might have a 1600 watt power supply in your computer, but when you go and look at the power consumption during gaming, it may sit at only 500 or 600 watts depending. This means that you don't need to choose an UPS that has a 1500 watt capability. A pretty safe bet for an UPS wattage capability is going to be right around the 900 to 1000 watt power mark. The next thing to look for when you're choosing an UPS is what type of power it's going to provide on battery backup. When power comes from your outlet, it's in the form of a smooth sine wave, which means that the power comes in a wave that starts at 0 volts, goes up to 120 positive volts, back to 0 volts, then down to 120 negative volts, then back to 0 volts. This wave will occur 60 times per second, and any good power supply is going to mimic that exact power output. Some uninterruptible power supplies on the cheaper end are not going to provide this pure smooth sine wave battery backup power. Instead, these cheaper UPSs will provide something called a stepped sine wave. You may also see this advertised as squared wave, rectangular wave, or simulated sine wave. These particular sine waves are going to have flat highs and flat lows, which mean that there are going to be milliseconds of 0 voltage when there should be a steady stream of power. When these UPSs kick over to battery backup, it can cause stability issues due to those flat highs and lows of 0 voltage. The fact that it causes instability on non-overclocked computers means that these issues will be compounded on any computer that's running a very tight overclock. Your computer may end up shutting down when using one of these UPSs, and that just completely defeats the purpose of using an UPS. So do yourself a favor, and when you're looking for an uninterruptible power supply, make sure you get one that uses pure smooth sine wave technology, and you're not going to run into any of those issues. I personally like the APC brand for surge protectors and uninterruptible power supplies, which is why I went with the APC Backups Pro Gaming in the color Midnight. It has a great digital display that is easy to read and shows you important information such as the volts and hertz of your incoming power, the load that's on your system in watts, volts, and percentage, how many minutes of battery backup you have left based on the wattage that you're using, and the charge state of your battery. It also has a colored light ring around the display that you can set to match your rig's color scheme. It also has several surge protected outlets that don't use battery backup. That way you can protect all of your peripherals even if you don't need them to be on battery backup. It also has USB ports on the front that will allow you to charge devices as well. One of the great features of this uninterruptible power supply is that the battery is replaceable, which means that you can purchase this UPS one time and it can follow you across all of your builds, and when the battery needs replaced, it's simple and easy to do. To recap, make sure you get yourself a good quality UPS that meets your wattage needs and one that provides pure smooth sine wave power during battery backup. Once you get an UPS, you're never going to have to worry about power surges or outages hurting your components, and you're never going to have to worry about losing game or work progress ever again. If you thought this information was helpful, click here to check out the critical step that you need to do to your motherboard as soon as it arrives. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.